What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Behind Show. Today is Tuesday, April 13th, 2021. And this video, I want to be, answering some questions you all asked recently. I recently, posted on Instagram and Twitter some questions you all would like for me to answer, and some of them are actually really, really interesting. But before I start answering the questions, this is kind of a question I kind of had. It was announced yesterday. That New England Patriots wide receiver Julian Edelman. First it was the Patriots. His contract was no longer with the Patriots because he failed a physical, but he ended up also retiring. He was actually, I believe, in 2009 in the 7th round by Kent State. He was actually, in Kent State, he was actually a quarterback. That's something interesting and not a ton of people know about. And I was really surprised by it. I personally thought, if he got cut by the Patriots, he's definitely going to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and reunite with Tom Brady. Makes quite a bit of sense. But, obviously that was not the case. There's been lots of people talking about if Edelman's a Hall of Famer. And that's kind of where a question I kind of had. Is Julian Edelman a Hall of Famer? Personally, he's a 3-time Super Bowl champ. He's a Super Bowl MVP. But when you talk about comparing Julian Edelman to players like Torrey Holt and Jimmy Smith and Reggie Wayne, and those type of NFL great receivers who are so underrated, especially Jimmy Smith with Jacksonville Jaguars, and you compare Edelman to those type of guys, and you bring up the ring factor. To me, I don't think that's really a fair, comparison or debate, because you're talking about Julian Edelman played with the greatest quarterback of all time. It's not even debatable. I mean, Tom Brady has more Super Bowl rings than like any other NFL franchise in NFL history. And Julian Edelman does have 3 Super Bowl rings, like I mentioned, because of Tom Brady. He has a Super Bowl MVP. I'll give him, Super Bowl MVP is incredibly impressive. But at the same time, not too long ago when the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl, Malcolm Smith, the linebacker that barely anybody remembers anymore, won the Super Bowl MVP. So, I really don't think Julian Edelman's a Hall of Famer. And I know lots of people, will probably disagree with me. But like I said, Torrey Holt was absolutely phenomenal. And the fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame yet is really ridiculous. Jimmy Smith was amazing. He's not in the Hall of Fame. Reggie Wayne, he played with Manning, Peyton Manning during his time with the Indianapolis Colts, and he's yet to be in the Hall of Fame. Even though I hate to say it, because I do not like them at all, and I hate their team more than anybody, look at Hines Ward. I actually thought Hines Ward was in the Hall of Fame. Hines Ward's not in the Hall of Fame, but you cannot have Edelman go in the Hall of Fame until some of those guys are in the Hall of Fame. You look at wide receivers who are going to be coming up for eligible to be in the Hall of Fame in the next couple of years. Like to me, the first player that pops up is Andre Johnson, the wide receiver of the Houston Texans. Andre Johnson has to be in the Hall of Fame 100% before Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman is not nearly as impressive as what people think he is. I mean, he was a really nice wide receiver. And, he, like I said, he was a 7th-round pick out of Kent State. He was a quarterback in college. Incredible career and a really nice story. He's overcame so much. Guys probably wasn't even going to make the team, ended up being a Super Bowl champion and a Super Bowl MVP. But I really don't think Edelman's a Hall of Famer. One of the reasons why I don't think it is, I posted this yesterday. And to me, this is a very interesting, very interesting stat I found and I decided to post about. So as you see here, player A has played 137 games, 49.7 receiving yards per game. He averages 11 yards per catch. His catch percentage, so the percentage, when the ball is thrown to him, the percentage of the time he catches it is 65.9. So his catch percentage is 65.9. He has 36 receiving touchdowns for his career. That's me. That's all right. Player B, 146 games. For his career, he averaged 49.5 receiving yards per game, 11.5 yards per catch. His catch percentage was slightly smaller, less than player A. He had 63.8 catch percentage, while he had 8 more receiving touchdowns, with 44 receiving touchdowns for his NFL career. Player A is a supposedly Hall of Famer. I've seen some people, for instance, Pat McAfee, I watch his show all the time, He said Julian Edelman should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Player A is Julian Edelman. Player B is former Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver T.J. Houshmandzadeh, who's considered to be probably the third or fourth best wide receiver in franchise history. When you're talking about Edelman, oh, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. When you talk about Houshmandzadeh, the casual fan, oh, he was all right. To me, it's like it's one of those situations to go to the Patriots and the Steelers and the Cowboys, those specific three teams. If a guy has a decent career, he's going to the Hall of Fame. For a small market team, let's say like the Lions and the Bengals and teams like that, you have to have a phenomenal career to be in the Hall of Fame. But personally, I don't really think Edelman should be in the Hall of Fame because, okay, let's say Edelman had that stats. Let's say he won one Super Bowl instead of three. If he had those stats and played with the Browns or the Bengals, there's no freaking chance he goes to the Hall of Fame. A lot of this has to do with him being with the Patriots and, winning Super Bowls. He did have that one incredible Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl MVP. But take away the Super Bowls, his resume are not nearly as impressive. And to me, it's really unfair to, compare Super Bowl wins, especially with the wide receiver position, because, like, for instance, you look at wide receivers. Larry Fitzgerald's never won a Super Bowl. He's a top 3 wide receiver of all time. Easily, in my opinion, the most underrated NFL receiver in NFL history. He's never won a Super Bowl, but look at those quarterbacks he had. And he's still been able to put up incredible numbers. Julian Edelman, with the Patriots, they had some other guys, like Wes Welker, Gronkowski, Edelman, Amendola. He had the greatest quarterback of all time thrown to him, but he did not have nearly as, nice stats as Fitzgerald. But Fitzgerald does not have a ring. Are you going to say that, Edelman is more deserving, because he has Super Bowl rings? I do not like the Super Bowl ring debate with wide receivers. I would say the only position in the NFL that you can kind of debate Super Bowl topics or, who's better with rings is the quarterback position. That's the only position to me that you can kind of debate, what quarterback is better and stuff like that. But honestly, I don't really think Edelman should be in the Hall of Fame. But if he is, all those guys, like I mentioned earlier, like, Hines Ward, Torrey Holt, Jimmy Smith, Reggie Wayne, eventually, Andre Johnson, like I said, he's going to be coming up, eligible soon. All of those guys need to be in the Hall of Fame before Edelman is. He's 100% not a first ballot Hall of Famer. If he's first ballot Hall of Famer, that's absolutely ridiculous. But if he's inducted, I still kind of think that's ridiculous. But I really don't think that Julian Edelman should be a Hall of Famer. So I have some other questions here. To me, I was asked this. With the draft coming up, it's just 16 days away, and it's really crazy to think about, how quickly the draft is coming up. I was asked, why do I believe the San Francisco 49ers will do at 3? This is really interesting. They traded, a ton of picks, a ridiculous amount of picks. They traded for number 3. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is going to go number 1. I would, Zach Wilson, I would assume go number 2. I would say as of right now, it would be Justin Fields. I've seen Matt Jones, and if they trade up all that for Matt Jones, I think that's going to be, looking back 5 years from now, will be one of the worst trades in NFL history. I don't see anything special in Matt Jones. He's good. He doesn't do anything great. He's just good. He's good at everything, not great. He has a limited potential. He has a limited potential. It reminds me of Daniel Jones a couple years ago when he was coming out of Duke, and he was drafted 6th overall by the Giants. But you look at Justin Phillips, he had a really impressive pro day. He also has another pro day coming up. Trey Lance, from North Dakota State, also has another pro day coming up. Me, it's between Trey Lance and Justin Fields. I think it'll be Fields. I just think it makes the most sense because you look at Trey Lance and Justin Fields. They both kind of remind you their playing style just a tad bit of Deshaun Watson, and I think with them trading up has a little bit to do with that because before the Deshaun Watson allegations and all those were coming up, the San Francisco 49ers were in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes of trying to trade for him. But, obviously, it looks like he's not going to be traded now. You don't know his future with the Houston Texans in the NFL in general. But I kind of think it's going to be Justin Fields. I actually like Trey Lance more than Justin Fields. But, with the level of competition with Ohio State compared to North Dakota State, that's a significant drop-off. Most people do like Justin Fields more than Trey Lance, and some people even like Justin Fields more than Zach Wilson, which I completely disagree with. But number three, I do think San Francisco 49ers would take Justin Fields. So let's see here. Another question is, it was announced yesterday that the Cincinnati Bengals, signed Sadius Moss. He was a former teammate of Joe Burrow's in college. He's the son of, NFL Hall of Famer Randy Moss. How does this signing affect the Bengals? I honestly do not think this signing affects the Bengals much at all. I know Bengal fans really like, Sadius Moss, and obviously they love Joe Burrow. I'm excited because Sadius Moss, he has, connection with Joe Burrow. They played together. But I would say right now, Sadius Moss is going to be the Bengals tight end number 3 behind C.J. Uzomah and and Drew Sample. And there's nothing great about Moss. You watch his games with Burrow in college. It's more so Burrow's going to throw the ball to him if he's open, and his yards after the catch is not much. He struggles in separation. And to me, you look at the Bengals last season specifically. You look at Joe Burrow's deep balls, throws more than 15 yards. A lot of those plays that were incompletions were due to, the Bengals wide receivers and tight ends struggling to get open in the yards from separation. And that's a big issue with Sadius Moss because he's very, very slow. He's not really athletic, not nearly as athletic as his dad was. But this doesn't really affect him. I saw some people say, with the Bengals signing Sadius Moss, that means they're definitely not going to draft Kyle Pitts now. Let's be realistic. The Bengals are never going to pick Kyle Pitts to 5. I've seen some people say, they don't have plans to take Kyle Pitts at 5, but it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out Kyle Pitts wasn't probably going to be I would say there's a 1% chance they wouldn't take Kyle Pitts before the signing, and there's still 1% chance. It was never going to be Kyle Pitts. It's probably going to be Penei Sewell, Jamar Chase. But I really don't think this signing affects us too much. I don't think it's a guarantee he even makes the team. I think he might, but I don't think it's a guarantee. But I think maybe having him, if I had to give like a season projection for Sadius Moss, if he makes the team, his stats, I would maybe say like 15 catches, 20 catches, something like that, and that's probably at the absolute max. Because before C.J. Uzomah got hurt, we started to use him quite a bit in their offense. I was hoping we could use him more to, get him more involved. But he gets hurt last season against the Cleveland Browns, and Drew Sample never really has yet to show that he was worth that second round pick. But it'll be really interesting what Sadius Moss brings to the Bengals, and how he's used, and even if he ends up making the team. So this was kind of another question, kind of with Justin Fields. Kind of already answered this one. That first question was, what will San Francisco do at 3? But this one was, where will Justin Fields go? I kind of already answered that. I think he'll go to the 49ers. If he doesn't go to the 49ers, which I have seen quite a bit of mock drafts have Mac Jones there, I don't understand that at all. I really think the Atlanta Falcons at number 4. I've said for probably about 3 or 4 months, whether it's the Atlanta Falcons at 4 or another team that trades up, number 4 is going to be a quarterback. In my opinion, I just think it will. Matt Ryan is getting up there in age. He has a big contract. Why not draft, Justin Fields at number 4 if he's available? Have him steady year. Learn from a guy like Matt Ryan, who honestly, if you look at his stats, look at his record, he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league, and it's really very well could end up being a future Hall of Famer in the future. But Justin Fields, to me, I think he will go to the San Francisco 49ers at 3. But if he doesn't, I do not see him going past 4 because I think the Atlanta Falcons would be all over Justin Fields getting him at number 4. So this is kind of the last question here, and this is probably my favorite question I was asked. This is very interesting. It was announced at the Cincinnati Bengals that they're going to have a Ring of Honor, and it was announced that the first 2 members of the Ring of Honor are Paul Brown, the founder of the Bengals, and Anthony Munoz, the Bengals' only Hall of Famer in the NFL Hall of Fame. And it's going to be two other players who will be in the Ring of Honor this season, and it will be voted by season ticket holders of the Bengals. Personally, we're talking about players this season. I think it should be Ken Riley and Ken Anderson. I think that's the only two acceptable answers. But since there's going to be four players each season getting added to the Ring of Honor, I really like this is really interesting. It's a very nice question. When does Carson Palmer get added to the Bengals Ring of Honor? Lots of Bengal fans, I would say 75 to 80%, don't like Palmer, the way he basically quit the Bengals and refused to play for them. We ended up trading him for a first and second round pick to the Oakland Raiders. We ended up getting Draker Patrick and Giovanni Bernard in that trade, but he quit on the Bengals and everything. It was very, I was very rude in my opinion. Looking back, I understand why kind of Palmer did it, but I still don't like how he did it. But when does Palmer get added to the Bengals Ring of Honor? Since this is voted by the fans, I think that has a huge impact on it. Because since it's voted by the season ticket holders, obviously it's not going to be this season. But when next season, the 2022 season, right off the top of your head, the four players I'm kind of thinking of right now are Chad Johnson, Ochocinco, Willie Anderson, really nice offensive lineman, who could potentially, in the future be a Hall of Famer. And Palmer, to me, he kind of goes in that 2022, so next season. I know there's some other players as well, maybe like Isaac Curtis, Chris Collinsworth, some of those guys, Corey Dillon, TJ Hughes-Mazada, but I think it would just miss the cut in next year. I think 2023 will be the year that Carson Palmer is added to the Bengals Ring of Honor. And, if it's going on like just how good the player was, Palmer would definitely be added, in my opinion, next year. But since this is fan voted for the Bengals season ticket holders, I would probably say the best bet is not next season, but the following year, so the 2023 season. So the third year of the Bengals having the Ring of Honor. So that kind of about does it for this episode. Kind of answer some questions from you all, kind of like is Julian Edelman a Hall of Famer? What would the San Francisco 49ers do at 3? Where would Justin Phillips go in the draft? Sadius Moss going to the Bengals, and how does that affect the Bengals in the future and their drafting implications? And also, when does Carson Palmer get added to the Bengals Ring of Honor? Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you can like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would really, really appreciate it. And I will see you next time on the Sports 200 Show.